Video number 2 of today. Oh, I tell you, during these Corona times, all I have time for right now is link around, do stuff, and make videos for you guys. How about that? Well, I'm happy. So let's just jump into this video number 2 of today. This is a topic that I probably maybe have touched a little bit in the past. I don't know. I don't remember. Frankenspeakers, or recycling speakers as many call them. Can it be done? Should it be done? Will it sound any good? Well, one, can be done, for sure. Should it be done? Sure. You never know until you try. Either you fail or you don't. Either you make it sound bad or you make it sound good. It's really up to each and everyone what they want to do, okay? So can it be done? Yeah. Should it be done? Sure. Will it sound good or bad? That depends on what you use and how you do it. Let's say that you have... Frankenspeakers can be done in many ways. Either you have some old drivers laying around that you really would like to put into use. So you build yourself a cabinet. We call that DIY. It's kind of like a Frankenspeaker, because you might maybe you have a JBL woofer and an Infinity mid-range, Infinity tweeter, or vice versa, or some other brands, and you try and mix this up as best as possible. And you want to use some crossovers. Let me get something for you guys. You can build your own crossovers. That's not a problem. You can build that. It's easy to build crossovers. The biggest work is to kind of like figure out crossover points to match the drivers and all that stuff. But to build them, physically building them is easy. Or you can you can buy pre-made crossovers. What you have to do then, and what you have to be careful with then, is get the right impedance and try and find the right crossover points. There are many crossovers out there that are pre-made. You can go on eBay, there is plenty of them. So if you know the impedance on each driver that you have, you're good to go. Just try and match the crossover as good as possible. How will it sound? I mean, I have heard tons and tons of Frankenspeakers that other people have made in the past, and some of them have sounded like, yeah, it's okay. Some of them are like, wow, this is really cool, this is really good. I built a few myself, and one or two has been like, why did I even do this? Toss it out. And then I have made some, or configured some that I have been like, wow, this really sounded good. What I did then was I used other cabinets that I had sitting around that used to be one type of speaker. I had taken the drivers out. The cabinets was just sitting there. I wanted to use them for something. And I had some drivers laying around. And I was like, they might fit in there. So I tried it, and they fit. And they physically fit in there. And then of course, I got around to the crossover. And I tried a few things. Tried some pre-made ones, tried some that I made myself, and it sounded really surprisingly good. Yeah, the looks are probably not going to be the best, but you know, who cares? It's Frankenspeakers. It's in the word. Frankenspeakers, who care what they look like? I mean, a lot of the manufactured stuff looks ugly. Then people say, well, how about the finish? Who cares about the finish on a Frankenspeaker? That's not what it's all about. What it's all about is trying to take something that was a mismatch from the beginning and make it match, and make it sound okay and sound good. It's all about the fun when it comes to the Frankenspeakers. And I tell you, sometimes you will do this and you go like, okay, sounds okay. And every now and then, when you least expect it, you have a pair of cabinets, you put in some drivers, you find a crossover, you hook it all up, and you plug it in and you start playing music, and you go like, holy shit, this sounds good. And you start to wonder, can I do this again with something else? And trust me, once you start going down the rabbit hole of Frankenspeakers, if you hit the nail on the head a couple of times and it sounds really good, you get hooked really fast. I tell you, a lot of people that are audio enthusiasts, and I know a lot of Vega people are, they have drivers laying around in, it's like a floodgate opening. You go into someone that collects a lot of speakers or have a lot of audio gear, it doesn't matter which brand, but normally when I see it normally with Vega people and L-Tech and JBL people, a lot of these guys have drivers laying around in masses, okay? I do. I have tons of drivers laying around, and sometimes I'll go like, I can use this for something, you know? And, but sometimes I don't have the time anymore. It's kind of sad because, well, now I do. I have plenty of cabinets laying around and plenty of drivers. Maybe I should put together some Frankenspeakers and do some playing for you guys with them. But once you do this Frankenspeaker stuff and you hit the nail on the head a couple of times, or even one time, and you go like, oh my Lord, that sounded great, that sounded good. Why haven't I done this before? And you start to think, you go like, hold on now, I have a couple of other drivers laying around. What if I, you know, and you really get drawn into this rabbit hole. So should you be playing around with making Frankenspeakers? Hell yeah. I mean, what is this hobby, audio hobby, without having fun? It's not just fun about buying stuff and you know, just because, oh, that's my favorite amp and that's my favorite speaker, and then you listen to it and you play and that's the fun. A lot of the fun with this hobby, I call it a hobby or an interest. Being an audio enthusiast or whatever, I don't consider myself to be one of those audioholics or audiophiles. I'm an audiophile in the true fashion of the word. To me, it's not about the price of the product or the name of the product. I'm an audiophile because I love music and I want my music to sound the best way possible for my ears and the way I like it. And I try to expand it and get it better and better within my philosophy and my thinking, in my mind of how I want audio to be suited for me. That's when you are a true audiophile. You don't have to justify your audiophile status to anyone else than yourself. So if that's your fun, okay, but the fun of the audio hobby or interest or being an audio enthusiast is also about having fun, about experimenting. That's where I have the most fun. If I experiment a lot with a lot of stuff that I have, it can be anything from like, okay, I have these pair of speakers, I have 2 amps, what other speakers can I put beside them and create the sound further? What type of amps can I use? And you try different amps, you know? You try the different speaker models. You try different CD players, different turntables. Maybe you are into different cables, wires. You try different things. It's all about exploring and try things. That's the fun about it. And that's where the Frankenspeakers and the DIY side of things comes into play. It's fun. You're exploring. And how would you know if you didn't explore, experiment, and try things? I mean, I have seen people come to me in the past and I have given them advice on either DIY or Frankenspeakers. And they have gone home and I haven't heard from them in like maybe weeks or a couple of months. And all of a sudden they come by again and they go like, holy crap, I have to tell you about this. They have made videos, they have made pictures, they have a whole album of it. And they're like, you know what? I really got into this Frankenspeakers after I talked to you the last time. It took a couple of weeks before I got going, but once I got going, oh my lord, look at this. I used this cabinet. I remember one guy, he had either an Altec or a JBL old vintage scoop cabinet or some kind. He put a full range coaxial big speaker in there, and he topped it off with a high dynamic tweeter on top. And he's like, you won't believe this. I'm like, yeah, I do. I've done similar things in the past. And he's like, I gotta bring them to you so you can listen to them. I'm like, sure, bring them to me. I'll listen to them. And I remember it took maybe another couple of months or so. All of a sudden one day, I get a knock on my door, and he's like, hey, are you ready now? You want to listen to these speakers? I'm like, yeah, sure, bring them in. And I tell you, it sounded freaking amazing. It sounded so good. Was it a little bit lacking in the bottom end for bass for my taste? Sure. Did it have punch? Yeah. Did it have the deep bass that I like? Maybe not. But I told him, hey, if you maybe use a different driver, if you do a different... And this is what Frankenspeakers are all about. You do something the first time, and you get like, oh my God, look, listen to this. And then you go like, hey, what if you do this? You know? So I told him, what if you do this, this, and this? He's like, huh, yeah, maybe. And a month later, sure enough, there he was again. Hey, I did some improvements. Do you want to listen now? He pulled them in. These are like 150-pound cabinets each. And he had taken the full range speaker, the coaxial speaker. It was a 12-inch. He had taken that out, replaced it with a regular 12-inch woofer, and he had a mid-horn on top of it. It was freestanding mid-horn on top of the cabinet, and then he had the super tweeter on top of there. And the improvement in sound was like night and day. It had a better bass response in the bottom. I said, I like this configuration better. He's like, oh yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. I mean, he was like hooked. I mean, that was crazy. I told him, you are onto something here. This sounds really good. Now, if you can, the cabinets will, I mean, he hadn't put too much work into the cabinet. He had reused them the way they were when he got them. So they were kind of like flaky old paint. I said, hey, take the drivers out, sand the cabinet down, either put some wood veneer on them or paint them. So he did. 3 weeks later, he starts sending me pictures on my phone. This is like years ago. He sent me like 6 or 7 pictures. What do you think about this? He had taken one speaker and put wood laminate on, wood veneer on it, and stained it in a really nice deep red color. And then he had taken the other one and he had put paint on it. I said, I think I like the one with the veneer better, just because it looks a little bit more classy. He said, I totally agree. A week later, more pictures comes in. What do you think now? And he had put veneer on both of them. I said, perfect. The end of the story to that one was 6 months later. I hadn't heard from him since then. All of a sudden, 6 months later, he texted me. He said, you will not believe this. I said, what? I took these speakers to a DIY meeting, and I explained that they were Frankenspeakers, that I had reused some old cabinets. One of the guys that was there was kind of like a judge or something. He said they looked really cool. He said they sounded fantastic. And guess what? Someone bought them from me for $1,500. I said, how much did you have in them? He said, about 350 bucks. You know, you never know. And that just goes to show that if you don't experiment or you don't try things, how would you know? You might stumble onto something that sounds better than what you already have. Or you might do something or create something that someone else loves and likes. And maybe, just maybe, you're so lucky like this dude was. Keith is his name. Maybe you are just as lucky as Keith. You put a little bit of effort into it, you put a little bit of money into it, and at the end of the rainbow, someone comes along and says, I really freaking like that. I want to buy it from you. And the story was that I asked him, well, how did you get to the 1500 mark? He said, I didn't know what they were worth, but I saw what everyone else was selling their DIY speakers for at that show after the judgments was done. He said, I'm open for offers. I have a base price in my head, but I'm open for offers. And the dude had just flat out, straight out said, I'll give you $1,500 now, and I'll take them right out of your hand. And you know what? He didn't say no. And this is like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, I think it is. It was close to 5 years ago, I think. Last year, he contacted me again. And he said, I haven't been able to do it because he lost his job, got a new job, moved. And now, about a year ago, he had done something else again. And I said, hey, this looks great. How does it sound? But because he had moved, he couldn't come up to my place and show it off. So he sent me a video, I think he did, on my old email. I have to see if I can find it. It looked really good. He said, but these I am not selling. Because he had gone out and bought something from a estate sale, some old speakers, solid good cabinets. He had taken the drivers out because one was blown, one had a hole in the cone and stuff like that. And he said, I don't like the tweeters. It wasn't like an expensive thing, but it was like the cabinets was really, really solid, sturdy build. And he said, I'm going to do some finish work to the cabinets, and then I'm going to put some other drivers in here. And when he was done, he showed it to me, and I mean, it was a little bit higher classy than what he did the first time around. He had put some focal mid-ranges and focal tweeters. So he had put a little bit more effort into it this time. But it's not about the money that you put into it. It's about the work and the ideas that you have. If you can see it in your head, you can materialize it out here and make it a result that you can enjoy. That's what it's all about. It's all about how you can visualize things and then transform it into something. We all can do something like that. That's what Frankenspeakers are all about. And you really should go out and try it. You know, if you, excuse my French, if you fuck it up the first time, don't worry, try it again. It's like sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. And sometimes you miss really bad. I have hit and miss, and hit and miss, and miss and miss and miss and hit. You know, you never know. So, Frankenspeakers, absolutely. Go ahead, guys. Start a revolution in Frankenspeakers. Until next time, take care.